Okay, hello traders and welcome to Market Blues. It's still Navon here, founder of Master the Markets, Elite Traders Conference, and the Traders Open Day. So Market Blues is all about keeping you at peak performance at the start of the week. As you know, Monday blues can hit you, but as traders, we always got to be so aware and focused on the moment. So today's topic, traders, is on awareness. Okay, some of you might have heard it, some of you might have not. So let's go into detail because it's so important. As also mentioned in the new market visits by Tom Baso, one of the big millionaire traders. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So let me go through that topic much more in detail. Right. So the first thing first in awareness, you must first understand in the topic of awareness, you must first understand the difference or the separation of the observer and the object. Okay, now what do I mean by this? Okay, the separation of the observer and the object. So for example, the whole principle of this is that if you can observe something, okay, let's say for example you're observing a pen. Okay, if you're observing a pen, if you're observing an object called a pen, to observe the object you must be different from it. You must be different from it. You cannot be the pen to observe the pen itself, right? So there must be a difference. If you're observing something, you must be different from it. There must be a separation. That is the first point, okay? That is what we mean by the observer and the object. Once you can observe something, you must be different than the object. So for example, even if you are traveling in a train, and then you're observing the trees pass by or the land or the buildings, once you can observe something, you must be different from it. There must be a gap. There must be a separation between you and the object. This is the first rule of observation, or the first rule of separation, to know that you're different from the object. Now, let's go a bit more deeper into this point on the separation of the observer and the object, is that these objects that I've described over here, the pen and the building, they are gross objects. They are gross objects. Gross objects means you can touch them, okay, and you can see them and you can touch them, okay, then you can see that they are gross material, okay, solidified material. However, some objects you can only feel them, but you cannot touch them. You cannot touch them. You only can feel them. So what are those kind of objects? Have a think, just type it into the chat box as well as you're watching this on YouTube live. What are the objects that you can feel, but you cannot touch? Okay, as some of you might be already thinking about it, and as you're about to type in as well, you can see that the stuff that you can feel are things like, the air, the breeze, isn't it? Like the wind, or, like heat, you can feel it, but you cannot touch it. And also like sunlight, you can see it, but you cannot touch it as well, can you? So things like this that you can feel or see, but you cannot touch, it's not gross to touch, is what we call the subtle objects. Subtle objects. Yet again, the principle of the separation of observer and object stands true even when you are feeling subtle objects. If you can feel the wind or you can see the sunlight, but still cannot touch them, but to see them or to feel them, you must be different from them. Okay, that's the first point. So there must be a difference, there must be a separation between you and the object. The object can be gross or can be subtle. So likewise, the last point what I want to give you on this first point of observer and the object and the separation of them is that if subtle objects like feeling like the wind, the heat, and the sunlight, the same thing with thoughts. Now you tell me, you type in into the chat box, thoughts, okay, thoughts. Can you observe your thoughts? If the answer is yes, you can observe your thoughts. That means, again, this must stand true. That means you are separate from them. Okay, you are separate from the thoughts. Okay, so that point holds true. So you, I, whoever that may be, John, Mary, Tiru, whoever, I is different from the thoughts. If you're able to observe something, you must be different from it. Principle number one, that's the separation between observer and the object. Okay, so far so good. If you have any questions at all, of course, you can put it into the chat box. Feel free to do that. So that's the first point. Okay, observer and object, know the difference, and that difference is also between subtle and gross objects. Now, some of you may be asking, okay, this is all well and clear. How is this? Oh, too, I really can't get my head around it. How is this so important in trading? That's what we're going to go to next. So why is this important to know? You see, traders, if you're different from something, okay, now you tell me, can you manage it better? Can you direct it better if you're different from something? The answer, of course, would be yes, right? If you're different from the pen, you should have control over the pen, right? You can pick it up, you can write with it, you can write books with it, you can direct it to whichever means or ways you want to. However, there's very less chance, if you're separate from that object, for that object to control you. Okay, so that's not possible, isn't it? So if that separation is there, you should be able to control it, not it controlling you. Okay, so that's point number two. So likewise with the thoughts, you see, the thoughts is the object, you are the observer, so the thoughts shouldn't be controlling you. You should have absolute control over your thoughts, absolute choice and control and direction of your thoughts if you are separate from the thoughts. But as you and I know, that that's not really true in life, is it? You see, our thoughts, the flow of thoughts is what we call the mind. The flow of thoughts is what we call the mind. Now, as you know, there's two types of thoughts mainly. One is emotional thoughts, okay, that which is love, excitement, happiness, or jealousy, hatred, anger, whatever it is, emotional thoughts, okay. And the other one is the intellectual thoughts. Intellectual thoughts are where, is it right? Is it wrong? Is this the right trade to take? Is it according to my plan? Should I exit it? Should I not? All these are intellectual thoughts, whether it's right or wrong, logic, reasoning, how should I do it, when, and all those are intellectual thoughts. But they're all thoughts, emotional and intellectual. Now, you see, traders, if I'm able to observe the thoughts, I'm separate from the thoughts, therefore I've got control and direction over the thoughts. That thought shouldn't be controlling me. But as you and I know, that's not true in life, because sometimes the trade, goes in your favor, but starts to retrace. Let's say, for example, you're long on this dollar Swiss. Now it starts to go against you. What happens? The fear starts to overwhelm you. Now you have to ask yourself, if I'm separate from the thoughts, how can the thoughts control me? I should be able to control those thoughts, right? But as you can see throughout life, not only in trading, but even when you are, diet, okay, you've told yourself, you're not going to eat that crisps, all right. But what usually happens, is it that easy to control the mind? The mind overpowers you sometimes, isn't it? It says, oh, come on, it's only one small crisp or one small cake, let's have that small piece. It was given by my best friend. The emotions overcome you. Okay, because of the habitual patterns that we've trained it to be, now the mind has become the master rather than being the servant to you, the master. Okay, so you can see now why first this very simple concept of separation of the observer and the object is so critical for management and direction of the object itself. In this case of topic, it's the mind. Okay, so that's why first this thing must be understood. Now, how how do we do this? How do we do this? How can we more and more practice to be in the observer state? How can we practice more and more to be in the observer state so that we can control and manage and direct the mind according to our will and choices? You see, imagine the strength and the power you will have if you're able to choose your emotions. No one can make you feel sad or angry or jealous, whatever it may be. Okay, no one has got the control. You will always have the control. Imagine that situation where you always have the control to choose happy thoughts, uplifting thoughts, inspiring thoughts. That is the power when you can be in the I rather than in the thoughts. Let the thoughts control you rather than you controlling the thoughts. So if you can always remain in the I state, sometimes in modern literature it's called self, it's called self or awareness or consciousness. That's today's topic, right? Awareness. So this is the difference between awareness and the thoughts. Thoughts, you can put it as the mind. Mind is the flow of thoughts. So if you can always remain here in the self, and the separation of the self and the mind, you'll have better control of the mind. Now, how do you stay more and more here? That is why there's different types of ways to do it. First, is true what we are doing here is by knowledge, is by understanding first this. Okay, so now you think, okay, this makes more sense to you. That absolutely is right. This knowledge making more sense. I should be more in the I, the self, the consciousness, the awareness, so that I can have more control of my thoughts. First is the knowledge. So through or we can call it introspection. Reflection is what we're doing. Through knowledge. That's one way. Second way is through meditation. Okay, meditation, what you're doing again, you're observing the thoughts, you're stilling the mind, and when you still the mind, you separate yourself from the thoughts, and now you can observe the thoughts. Okay, that's another way where you're getting more and more closer to the self. Third thing is through breathing exercises. This was also explained in new market visits as well, where the traders were dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars. Sometimes they see it going against them, so as not to react, but to respond according to their plan. They take deep breaths in and out. So when you do that, even if you just do simply 2 times, 3 times in total, immediately what happens, traders, is that the breath is the direct link to the mind stills, the separation happens, and you're able to observe the breath. That means you remind yourself that you're not the mind, you're not the breath, you're different from that. You get closer to yourself, which is the I. Okay, now when you are in that state, as traders, is so important for us. We can choose the thoughts, we can choose the thoughts of not being in fear, and then being in absolute awareness, where we can then control the mind and say, you know what, no, cumulatively, my plan should work. I've already worked out my edge. Let me follow the plan, because the net profit is not just out of one trade. I've already done my pre-plan, and I've got to analyze this. Then only I've got to conclude eventually over 2 months, 3 months, or 1 year of data, whether we need to change the strategy or just keep going as the same. So this is the power of being in the self, closer to the awareness state. You see, traders actually even master the markets over here. If you can see, let me just pull up the website over here, then you all can see as well. If you look actually at masterthemarkets.net company page, if you actually go to the About Us section over here, let me just share my screen over here. And that, as you can see in our vision statement, it's over here. Changing lives are bringing you closer to yourself through real, transparent, inspiring trading education. You see, bringing you closer to yourself. This is important, especially in trading. Okay, and throughout your life, these principles are throughout life as well. Health, career, relationships. Always when you're closer to yourself, you're on awareness, you can manage and direct the mind accordingly. Okay. All right, that's all from me on this topic for today on Market Blues on the awareness. Okay, now let's go on to the markets for today and analyze the markets. But do reflect on what I've said in awareness. 3 simple points. First of all, always understand the separation of observer and the object. Once you've understood that, then reflect on why it's important. As you can see, it's better for management of the mind. Therefore, increase focus and increase efficiency in any part of your life, and especially in trading, as we're talking over here. And then the third part is how can you get more and more closer to the self, as I mentioned, through meditation, through breathing, or through what I've just said, knowledge and introspection. Okay. Okay, so that's good. So let's move on to the markets for today. So you can see for dollar Swiss for today, let's start with dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss for today, it's in the upside. First interruption over here. Still, I would say open equity to the upside. First level of up strength would be the top of this primary bar over there. Okay, second level to show strength for it to go further is over there on the upside. Okay, so that's all on dollar Swiss. I would still say more open equity to the upside. Dollar yen, on the other hand, I would still say more open equity to the upside. This just got confirmed here. So we are still good on the upside open equity. GBP USD. Okay, let me see if we got the daily one. Let me just put the daily over here. GBP USD on the daily side, what we do have is, where would I say the open equity is? Confirmation bar was around there. I would say more open equity still to the downside, looking at the weekly, because the weekly still hasn't confirmed yet. Euro dollar, however, just one point that I just remembered on GBP USD, first level for you to show weakness is take out that low over there. Second one would be here. Conservative, you can always enter here. Aggressive, you can enter over there, looking at the intraday charts. Euro dollar, on the other hand, you can see is finding some kind of a support at the moment over here. Open equity, I would say, diminishing to the downside, more to the upside, some reversal. Aussie dollar, on the other hand, you can see over here, open equity, I would still say to the downside. First level of weakness on the low over here, and the second level is over here. Okay. However, I would say be cautious. If it does confirm, then I would say open equity to the upside. So we will observe that. Coffee, let me just take a look at the currencies very quickly. GBP Yen and Euro Yen over here. GBP Yen, on the other hand, you can see that if it doesn't confirm, has it confirmed? Yes, this is the one that confirmed. I would still say open equity to the upside. If it doesn't, then I would say it's turning direction to the downside. Euro yen, on the other hand, I would still say open equity to the upside. Just got confirmed over here on Friday. And then coffee, on the other hand, I would still say open equity is diminishing to the downside. So I'll be cautious. But if it does take out this low over here, I would say more open equity to the downside. Okay. Dow Jones, on the other hand, where is the open equity at the moment? I would still say to the downside. It just got confirmed over here. This might be a bit of a retracement, a pullback. Silver, on the other hand, more open equity to the downside. First level I'll be looking at taking out is this point over here to go more to the downside. GBP Yen, we've already looked at. Dollar index is the last one. Dollar index with a confirmation of this bar over here. I would still say more open equity to the upside, but it's diminishing. So I'll be very cautious if you're riding this move to get a bit more aggressive on your stops. All right, I guess that's pretty much that in terms of me, in terms of market blues videos, in terms of market analysis, and in terms of the topic of awareness today. So traders do reflect on this is so important, because so that we can be in control of our emotions, manage them better, and also for to be at peak performance state at every single point of our trading. All right, that's all from me for now. And as we always say, till the next time, stay disciplined,